Welcome back, basketball fans. So, of course, we know that Cooper Flag is getting a shitload of hype going into his rookie season. The youngest kid in the draft, just turning 19 before the season starts, obviously getting a lot of comparison to LeBron James based on obviously his age and how dominant he's been in high school and his projection so far into the NBA. The kid that historically has always been neck and neck with him as potentially the best player to come out of that high school group and potentially be the best NBA player is Ace Bailey. When you think about these two players, obviously they both had great high school careers. Cooper Flag obviously had a much more celebrated high school career. Obviously fast-tracked himself, skipped a year so that he'd get into the college quicker and then obviously into the NBA quicker. And that's worked out perfectly for him. After a spectacular year at Duke, he ended up leading the Dukies to the finals of the NCAA tournament. They ended up losing, but you can't really hate on that. I mean, obviously they played great. And, winning March Madness is not the easiest thing to do. But being right up there in the Final Four, you've definitely done everything that sort of people had expected from you. And more, to be fair. Whereas Ace beat Bailey, he went to a team with his good friend, and they did not even make the NCAA March Madness tournament, right? Even with all the hype about him being this, historical type of scorer, being compared to Kevin Durant, going to college out of having a great high school career, and playing okay, right? For a team that was highly hyped to start the season, but kind of disappointed throughout the year. And obviously didn't end up getting able to qualify for March Madness, so we didn't even see him in the biggest potential games of his college career. So obviously at that point, it leaves a lot to the imagination. Then of course we have his teammate, Dylan Brooks, why am I saying Brooks? Dylan Harper, who of course went to the Spurs to play with Wemby. So all three of these players are probably the three that are going to get the most potential push for this year's Rookie of the Year. Of course, there may be a sleeper. Let me know in the comment section below who you think potentially could win Rookie of the Year as a sleeper, outside, of course, of the top three players, Ace Bailey, Cooper Flag, and Harper. When we compare these three players and where they went in the pros, obviously Cooper Flag has the best opportunity ahead of him. We know Dallas was a very good team. Once their superstar point guard comes back, they're a guaranteed playoff team. The question is, how well can they do in the playoffs? Do they have a team that's good enough to potentially win the NBA title? We know when they had Luka, they got to the finals and ended up losing to Boston. Now they swap Luka for Cooper Flag along with Davis. And you would think that probably the team is a little weaker in some areas, but a little stronger in others. And potentially still has a good opportunity to do well in this upcoming NBA draft, depending on, of course, Kyrie Irving. And, of course, how Cooper Flag fits into this squad. When we think about Harper, at this point, you got to ask yourself, is he even a starter with this San Antonio Spurs team? Right now, pretty much the projection is De'Aaron Fox, who San Antonio ended up trading for last year, which I think was a fantastic trade. The pick and roll with Fox, who's very quick, and Wemby should be historic. Then you have Stephen Castle, who of course won Rookie of the Year last year, came out of UConn where he won 2 March Madness tournaments. A very good player. Did he win 1 or 2? I think he only won 1, but nonetheless, coming from a great program and obviously won in his 1 year in college. Then you got Devin Vassell, who, isn't the best shooting guard in the league, but at the same time, he's athletic, he's fast, he's a little streaky, But at this point, he should be good enough to hold down that position. Then, of course, you got Kevin Johnson playing behind him. Then you have Jeremy Sohan at power forward. And then, of course, the historically great Victor Wembanyama, who actually grew a couple inches in the offseason. And now they have a great backup center behind him in Cornet. And I think they might even be smart at times to play Cornet and Wemby in a twin tower type of situation and sit Jeremy Sohan. I think that potentially could be their best lineup. And then, of course, you have Harper. The team overall with Barnes, Olynyk, Cornet, Johnson, of course, Bryant, who could be a sleeper this year. I don't know if he's going to be in the running for Rookie of the Year, but a guy that definitely should develop into a great player for San Antonio, and definitely they're thinking of him as a future starter down the road. Then you have Champagne, who obviously is a very streaky shooter, but a quality scorer off the bench. And then, of course, Harper. The question is Harper going to get enough minutes to really be in there to potentially be Rookie of the Year? If you play Harper with Fox and Castle and put Vassell on the bench, the question is, do they have enough shooting to really compete? Obviously, Wemby's an unbelievable player and impossible to cover. Fox is super fast, a streaky shooter. Castle showed you he's a great complementary player. I think Harper is kind of similar. He's also more of a complementary player. I don't know how well it would work starting him with Fox and Castle when you only have one ball. And obviously two of those players are used to controlling the ball for the majority of the time. And even Castle is a very good secondary sort of ball handler. And now you push him to sort of a spot-up jump shooter and a corner three-point shooter. You might be losing some of the best aspects of his game overall. So it makes me wonder how Derek Harper, at least for next year, is going to really fit into this Spurs team, and if he's going to get enough minutes to really make an impact and potentially make a run for Rookie of the Year. Then, of course, you have Ace Bailey. We know Ace Bailey has come out hot in the preseason, showing you that, he not that he's necessarily the next Kevin Durant, but the comparisons between him and Kevin Durant, you can see why people have always stated that. There's a lot of similarities in their game. Obviously, he's not the rebounder that Durant is. He's not the overall offensive juggernaut that Durant is either. Ace Bailey's a very good shooter, obviously from mid-range and from deep, but he's not a very aggressive ball handler. He doesn't really take the ball hard to the hole, something Kevin Durant historically always did. Kevin Durant always felt comfortable in the paint and, of course, outside. Ace Bailey seems right now a little weak, not strong, easy to muscle off the ball. The way they're working with him right now, they're setting tons of screens to give him opportunities to run and get to open spots on the floor, which is a smart way to, build the young players' confidence and obviously put him in positions so that he can utilize his strength. But once you start playing good defensive squads, they start making adjustments. The question is he going to be able to adapt and adjust so that he consistently is effective throughout the season? Obviously, the NBA game is a much more open game than college, so he should obviously have tons of opportunity to score and have a lot of success. So I do think potentially he might be the highest scorer out of the rookie class. But being the highest scorer in the rookie class on a losing team, is that going to make you Rookie of the Year? It might, I guess, depending on how many points you put up. But if you're putting up 22 points a game and your team doesn't even qualify for the playoffs, does it really say that you're the best Rookie of the Year? Or are you just in a position where, you have more opportunity to shoot the ball because expectations for the team are low, and because you are obviously the future, they're giving you opportunities to showcase you, build up your confidence, and of course, be happy with your position for the Utah Jazz, which obviously coming out of the draft was questionable. It doesn't seem as if Ace Bailey was really eager to go to Utah, and that was a constant sort of talking point during and past the NBA draft. So we'll see. So far, obviously, he's doing great, but we have to see if he can develop more of an all-around game. And how's his defense going to be? Because obviously, for a guy like him, a three in the league, a guy with good length and good range, it's going to be important for him to be able to lock down players as well and utilize his length and athleticism to make it difficult for other offensive players to score. And we'll see if he's tenacious enough to do that, and if physically he's developed enough as a young man to really sort of deal with the consistent grind of the NBA season. Then, of course, we get to Cooper Flagg. And he's walking into a great position, obviously, in the league. We could look at a guy like, say, Tim Duncan. Obviously, Tim Duncan came into the league to San Antonio, which was a very good team, and was able to, fit into a good squad, complement the squad, and in turn, because of that, have a lot of success. But he wasn't put in a position on a losing team where he had to carry them and have inflated stats, right? Cooper Flagg's in a similar position. When you look at his current squad with Anthony Davis, an all-star, Caleb Martin, a great scorer from the guard position, Daniel Gafford, a very energetic big man, Derek Lively, a very energetic big man, Jaden Hardy, a streaky guard. Obviously, he can go to the hole, he can shoot. He's a good player coming off the bench. Probably not really a starter in the NBA. Klay Thompson, obviously one of the best shooters in NBA history, and a guy that they're going to utilize to stretch the floor and sort of open it up because they are very big man oriented. They have a lot of size. They're going to probably be starting Flagg, Lively, and Anthony Davis. And that's going to be one of the biggest front lines in the NBA. Then you have Max Christie, who, down the road probably would be a great replacement for Klay Thompson. At this point, he's younger, he's more athletic, he's a very good complementary player who can really play lockdown defense. If he gets a little more consistent with his jump shot and creating off the dribble, he may never be the shooter that Klay Thompson was, and that's probably true. But as far as a well-rounded all-around player, potentially he could be better than Klay as far as a guy who can go off the dribble, a guy that can play off the ball, a guy that can hit the open jump shot, a guy that can play lockdown defense, right? Then you think of the rest of the squad after that. Najee Marshall, a very, very serviceable player off the bench. D'Angelo Russell, a starting point guard in the NBA. We don't know if he's going to be starting for Dallas because obviously they might be playing Cooper Flagg in that point guard sort of position. Miles Kelly, who's looked really good. As far as a stretch shooter, the guy's really looked like he's a solid shooter and a guy that would probably be a smart addition to this team. The more shooters you have on the team, the better in the long run. Nembhard, obviously a little small for the NBA, not the best defender, but a guy that's a great point guard, right? Can really lead the team. He's really fast. He distributes the ball very well. You can see that he's just a point guard at heart, like his brother, and does very well. The last game I saw in the preseason, he had 11 assists, right, coming off the bench. So obviously he's not a starter, but if you need a point guard to control and distribute the ball, he's a perfect sort of player to have coming off the bench. And the fact that he's not great defensively, for a great defensive team like Dallas, that might not be that much of an issue because they're so long, they could really sort of help him and sort of, have his back so that defensively, if he's getting beat by bigger men, he knows that he's got some great defenders behind him. Then, of course, you got PJ Washington, who's a legitimate starter. His jump shot's consistently gotten better. And then another all-star in Kyrie Irving, who's obviously coming off of an injury, but nonetheless is a fantastic player, one of the best guards in the NBA. And whenever he's healthy, Dallas is just going to be a sensational squad. And then, of course, Dante Exum, the Australian player, tall, 6'6", 6'7", a guy that can play point guard. The year they ended up going to Boston for the finals, he was really beneficial off the bench. And he's the kind of ball handler that if you need another ball handler coming off the bench, you're very happy to have a guy like him. He's also long, so his length can really help defensively. So when you think of Kyrie when he comes back in January, Dante Exum, Nemhard, D'Angelo Russell, of course, Cooper Flagg, right? Right there, you have 5 ball handlers. Caleb Martin, Klay Thompson, Jaden Hardy, Max Christie. You have your wings, shooters, defenders, right? And then, of course, you have your big men. This Dallas team is really well-rounded. And I think there's deep squad, deep bench. You know, the only issue you could ask is the point guard position. But as I said, you might not have a guy that you feel comfortable taking you to the playoffs. But obviously, you're just trying to hold out till Kyrie Irving comes back in January. And you know, just keep performing and playing and just sort of hold things down until he comes back. So that's a pretty good position to be in. Obviously, there's not going to be that much pressure on Flagg. He just has to go out and do his best. If he ends up struggling a bit because he is a rookie, you do have D'Angelo Russell, who's obviously a legitimate starter in the NBA, to take over that position. And then guys like Nemhart, a real quality ball handler and distributor, and then a guy with a lot of experience on the team in Dante Exum. So I think Dallas is in a great position. Obviously for Cooper Flagg, we know he's not going to be in position to potentially score as much as Ace Bailey. But overall, his team is going to win more. They're going to have a great year. He's going to be a great defender, a great rebounder, a passer, and a scorer. And his scoring and offense so far in the preseason has looked really smooth, far better than we could have even imagined, right? I saw people criticizing him being compared to LeBron James. But I'll tell you right now, his jump shot is way better. Way better. It is not fucking even close to LeBron James coming out of high school. And granted, LeBron James was such a physical, dominant player, he never really had to rely on his jump shot, right? And that's why it took him years to develop a pretty good jump shot that you know, is something that's very serviceable. Cooper Flagg at this point, jump shot is way better than an 18, 19-year-old LeBron James. It ain't even worth talking about. When we look at Ace Bailey, I have some concerns with his team. Obviously, he's going to be starting probably with Lauri Markkanen beside him, and then probably Walter Kessler as your center. So there's your forwards right there, Ace Bailey, Markkanen, Kessler. 2 really good shooters, a very good defensive player who obviously is limited offensively. But you need him mostly to back up the team defensively, be a shot blocker and a rebounder, right? You got Lauri, Markkanen, and Bailey. Neither are going to be great defenders, but obviously they're both very good scorers. They can stretch the floor, open it up for guys like Keontae George, who's not a great scorer, but he's very fast, aggressive, a guy that if you have guys stretching the floor, opening up the key for a guy like George, it's perfect. You got Nurkic off the bench, a very, very good center. Kevin Love, you know, a guy that's probably going to be more of a power forward, but experienced and a solid backup. Last year's draft pick, Kyle Filipowski, who had a very good year last year. You pull him off the bench and you got another power forward center who's very good. One of the most impressive players I've seen on this team, Bryce Sensabaugh, who is listed as a small forward, so would probably be the backup behind Ace Bailey. But at this point, he's a much better all-around player than Ace Bailey. A better defender, a better passer, better off the dribble, can get into the key. And just, if you want your team to win, I think he would be a better starter at this point than Ace Bailey, who I think is going to be more of a one-dimensional player. But if you really think about this team, if you start Sensabaugh, George, and then the 3 big men, the problem you have is defensively you're not great, and I don't know if you have enough shooters, because I don't know if Sensabaugh and George are that good of shooters to really sort of open the floor the way they need to. Then you have Walter Clayton Jr., obviously a great draft pick, a guy that led Florida to the title last year. So congratulations to Walter Clayton Jr. I mean, if anybody can hit big shots, he proved he can do it. The question is he going to get enough minutes? Because, of course, you have last year's high draft pick, Isaiah Collier. So you have Walter Clayton, Collier, and, of course, George, right? So you have 3 point guards. Not one of the three is really a proven NBA shooter. Obviously, Clayton has been dynamic in college. Collier is a physical, strong player, but not really a great scorer. George is a little bit of both of those guys put together. So you can see why he's going to start. And then, of course, you have 2 good forwards in Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams, who they listed shooting guard, yet he's like about 6'9". So I don't know what kind of shooting guard he is, because defensively, I don't think he is a great defender. Hendricks is a solid defender. Sensabaugh is a good defender. Obviously, Kessler's a good defender. But I think Utah overall, they're missing that wing scorers, right? And I think that potentially can hurt them as far as winning games and doing well this year, especially in a really deep West. As far as big men, with Kessler, Nurkic, Markkanen, Filipowski, and Taylor Hendricks, very good, young, athletic, versatile big men. We have to see how they fit together and how they complement one another. And then with your guards, or forwards, Cody Williams, Bryce Sensabaugh, and Ace Bailey, right? I think 3 of them are very good. What you're looking more about them is more of their upside. At this point, I don't think any of the 3 is really a legitimate top 10 wing in the NBA. And then your guards, as I mentioned, you got George, Collier, and Clayton. The same thing with them. I mean, George is a good player, and he was really streaky last year. At times, really showed that he could play, really make the difference. But consistency has been his biggest problem. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams play out. Out of the 3 teams I mentioned, they're all teams from the West. I definitely think Dallas is easily going to make the playoffs this year. San Antonio, depending on how they gel, and if Victor Wembanyama can stay away from injury issues, which are always an issue when we're talking about guys as tall as him. Just think about Ralph Sampson and many others. If he can stay away from injuries, then obviously they are a team that's probably going to make the playoffs. And then you have the Jazz, who at this point is a young team. Obviously, I think I like the way Danny Ainge is developing them, but I definitely think shooting is something they're missing, and defense and rebounding as well, right? As far as the team overall, because I don't think they're a great rebounding team, even though you got athletic forwards. They're thin guys that primarily aren't really grinders on the inside. They're just going to really fight for rebounds and win a lot of those battles. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about these 3 top rookies? Who do you think is going to be potentially the rookie of the year? Obviously, the year hasn't started yet, so we have a whole year ahead of us. You never know how things will turn out. And do you see anybody as a potential sleeper that could potentially pull the upset and beat these 3 guys to winning the 2025-26 Rookie of the Year? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.